When it comes to mass-produced all-electric vehicles, Nissan is certainly no stranger. The company was one of the first manufacturers to enter the space with the all-electric Nissan Leaf over a decade ago. However, as Nissan continues to push toward electrification, I'm actually out here in Healdsburg, California, which is just outside of Napa, California, to drive the company's first ever all-wheel drive electric SUV. This right here is the brand new 2023 Nissan Ariya e-4ORCE. It's built off of a dedicated battery electric architecture, and what the e-4ORCE badge adds is a separate electric motor at the back axle, giving this thing roughly twice the power and torque of the front-wheel drive version and up to 267 miles of range on a full charge. So if you guys have always had your eye on a premium long-range electric SUV, but if you wanted something from the Nissan brand, how does the brand new 2023 Ariya e-4ORCE stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So I must apologize in advance for the very crappy weather and for my hair being a hot mess. As you can see, I'm here in Northern California, where it typically doesn't rain in this state, but it's been very rainy, very windy, but the show must go on. So let's go ahead and talk about the Ariya now that we have the all-wheel drive model in our possession. Now, as you can see, the hood is open, but this vehicle does not come with a frunk, even though it's built on a dedicated EV architecture, which I'll explain why in just a moment. But let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain specs. Now, the base Ariya comes with a single electric motor at the front axle, and Nissan says that they had to repackage all the electric componentry into this area to give us more interior space. So that's right, where some of these components could have been put in the cabin and given us a frunk, Nissan says that their customers wanted more interior space, which is why there is no frunk. But regardless, the Ariya is available with two different battery packs. There's a 62 kilowatt base engage. If you see an Ariya with a plus badge on the window sticker, that's going to mean you have the bigger 82 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. This is what my tester is. It's the top of the line Platinum plus grade trim level. And when we have an electric motor at the front plus an electric motor at the back, we get a total of 389 horsepower. That's about 151 more horsepower versus the front wheel drive model that I drove about 6 months ago. And torque is actually exactly double the output of the front wheel drive model. This model here has 442 pound-feet of torque. Now, if you guys go for the base version, the smaller battery pack e-4ORCE version, you actually have less power, 335 horsepower and 413 pound-feet of torque. Those power figures are still very good, although it isn't quite as much as what you're going to get from the quickest versions of, for example, the Ford Mustang Mach-E or the Tesla Model Y Performance. It all goes out through a one-speed reduction gear transmission. e-4ORCE means this vehicle is all-wheel drive. It's the first ever all-wheel drive electric vehicle from Nissan. The company says you should get to 60 in around 4.8 seconds. It has a top speed that's a little bit higher at around 124 miles an hour, and this vehicle should still tow a maximum of 1,500 pounds. The downside about having the all-wheel drive version of the Ariya is this vehicle is heavier by about 300 pounds. As this one sits, it weighs in at just over 5,000 pounds. But let's go ahead and close up the hood and talk about the exterior styling of this vehicle, which Nissan calls it timeless Japanese futurism. Now, whether you think it's timeless or not is all subjective, but you have to admit that Nissan did a really good job in giving this car a very unique futuristic look. It almost looks like it blends some elements of the next generation Murano with, of course, the Rogue. That's what the footprint is all about. You can see it's got the EV take on Nissan's V-Motion grille. It has some interesting accents in the grille where you can see there's no actual opening here, but there's some cool little patterns in the grille. You can see the Nissan logo also lights up at night. This is the newest version of Nissan's logo. And then all Ariyas, you can see, come standard with full LED headlights. You have an LED daytime running light along with an LED turn signal, some functional air vents here to allow for air to pass through. And then you can see here LED fog lights on the lower front fascia. There are some actual functional openings down here, but this is one of the few EVs out there that actually does have fog lights. Most EVs don't even have LED fog lights, but moving around the side profile, you can see definitely a compact crossover on the outside. This is built off of a dedicated EV architecture. It has a wheelbase of around 108.9 inches, and its overall length is around 182.9 inches long. So this is the footprint of something like a Nissan Rogue, but Nissan says that the interior space is more like a Murano. So it's going to give you more of a mid-size SUV in terms of the interior space. Now, the wheels, very chunky and polarizing. These are the 20-inch Aero-style wheels that you get on the Platinum. This is actually an optional wheel. All the other Platinums have 19s. This is the 20-inch wheel. It's wrapped in a 255/45 R20 tire. these do reduce the range slightly from 272 miles of range to 267 with these bigger wheels. You can see you have four-wheel disc brakes, which is nice, and all-independent suspension. And this model here actually has a little bit less ground clearance than the front-wheel drive model at 6.7 inches, about a half an inch less ground clearance. You can see the wheel arches are also gloss black. And they are a little bit more protruding versus some other EVs that I've seen. You can see the Platinum grade includes a black painted side mirror with integrated turn signals. These are power folding mirrors. You have also a black painted roof with a panoramic sunroof, which is nice. And then you can see there's black around the window trim, although it's black, but it's more of a dark chrome. Nissan tells us that the e-4ORCE models get kind of a dark chrome accent here along the window trim versus it's a bright chrome on the regular front-wheel drive version. I'm moving around the rear of the vehicle. I'm going to try to avoid all this water over here. Let's take a look at the styling back here at the rear. You can see interesting design to the taillights. You have no Nissan logo here. Instead, it's spelled out Nissan. It's behind this kind of glass cover. For the full-length LED taillights, you can see it's an LED turn signal, LED brake lights as well, LED reverse lights. And then at the back here, you can see there is an e-4ORCE badge. That's what's going to show you or show people that you have the all-wheel drive version, which also includes a lot more horsepower and torque, which is definitely a reason to go with the all-wheel drive system. Now, there is a roof spoiler here. You can see it's got a little bit of a cutout here to let air kind of pass through back here. And unlike some EVs, Nissan does equip the Ariya with a rear wiper, which is definitely nice, along with a digital camera rearview mirror, which also is great for visibility. Now, opening up the trunk, this vehicle is a compact SUV, and its spacing on the cargo area reflects that. This offers around 23 cubic feet of storage space with the back seats up. Now you can see it also has their divide and hide cargo management system here, but as you can see as well, there's the mobile charger, the level one charger. Because of the all-wheel drive system, Nissan says that the underfloor storage space back here is not as deep. So if you guys remember the front-wheel drive model, there was a little bit more underfloor storage, but because the rear motor is here, it takes up a little bit of that space. There is no spare tire in this vehicle as well. Instead, you just have a fix-a-flat kit with an air compressor. When you fold down the second row seats, it expands the cargo to around 59 cubic feet, which is still among the best in the segment. So for those of you who need to carry some stuff, even though this doesn't have a frunk, it does have a relatively generous sized rear cargo area. Now back here as well, I want to show you guys where the charge port door is, which is actually over on the front of the vehicle. This model here, you can see it's just a manual charge port door. It's on the front passenger side of the fender. And when you open this up, you can see it's got the standard J1772 plug, and it also has the CCS combo port. So unlike the Nissan Leaf, which uses the CHAdeMO connector, which is being phased out, this vehicle has the more modern take on charging. It'll accept up to 130 kilowatts on a DC fast charger, which means this longer range version will go from 10 to 80% in about 40 minutes, 30 minutes if you have the smaller battery pack, and it has a 7.2 kilowatt onboard charger, which means on a level 2 at your home or a public one, this will take roughly 11 hours to charge from 10% all the way up to full. So let's go ahead and talk about the interior of the all-wheel drive Nissan Ariya, especially in this platinum grade. The first thing I do want to show you guys, however, is the key fob. You can see Nissan does have a new key. It's kind of a nice evolution of the old key with some nice new silver metallic accents. There is no remote start on the fob, but their intelligent key is standard on all versions of the Ariya. And if you have access to the Nissan Connect app on your smartphone, you should also be able to access this vehicle and remote start it from your phone. But as you can see, unlike some EVs, which have those interesting pop-out door handles with the electronic actuators, Nissan decides to go with a traditional door handle. You can see power folding mirrors are included on this trim, and it has a sensor on the back of the door handle that will unlock the door, and it pulls out the completely normal style. Now, looking at the interior, you can see the red exterior of my tester looks really good with this kind of blue interior. It's like a navy blue interior, although it's a very, very dark blue. These are actual premium Napa leather seats. Nissan says this is the only EV in its class that offers actual real Napa leather seats, and it's going to give for a much more premium interior environment. You can see there's some suede Alcantara on the door panels here, where it's also blue leather along the armrest pad here, and you have soft touch materials. And you can see here you have 2-person memory seats with an 8-way power adjustment with 4-way power lumbar support. The memory seats with power is actually standard on all-wheel drive versions of the Ariya, and this model here also has heated and ventilated seats. This is the only trim to get ventilated seats. However, even the base Ariya e-4ORCE Engage Plus, or the Engage, has heated seats and a heated steering wheel and a heads-up display. So again, really great tech features as standard. These are comfort features that I think a lot of consumers are going to really appreciate. You can see the Ariya also has a completely flat floor over here. This is where Nissan decided to move some of the components from the electric motor system into the frunk area where it would be to give us more space on the interior. At least that's what they claim. Now getting inside the vehicle, it has around 6.7 inches of ground clearance, so the step-in height is a little bit higher than a sedan, obviously. As I get in and shut the door should have a solid sounding thunk, but there was a water bottle there, so it was rattling. Let's try that again. The door has a nice solid sounding thunk, so that gives you the impression of quality right off the bat. Now starting the vehicle up, you can see the start stop button is here. You also notice there's this beautiful wood piece with these touch sensitive buttons, which as I turn the vehicle on, the lights turn on that also show you that there are hidden buttons over there. It has a newer Nissan chime, and then all Ariyas will have their newest infotainment system here. This is a 12.3-inch, dual 12.3-inch displays with Nissan Connect head unit. You can see it has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. My phone already connected to it, and you can see the screens themselves have an interesting look. This is a convex oriented screen here, and then a concave screen here, so it kind of gives you an interesting futuristic effect to it. I also like the steering wheel here with its flat bottom two-spoke design with some actual buttons. These are not touch sensitive buttons like a Volkswagen. These are actual buttons for the audio and for your ProPilot Assist 2.0. That right there is a camera that watches your face to make sure you're paying attention to the road when you are using the system. And then the window controls, you can see they have a high quality feel to them with some gloss black. They're also all illuminated. You have power folding mirrors, and you have one touch for all four, which is nice, along with, like I said, the two-person memory. More wood and copper accented, bronze accented trim is splashed throughout the interior, and it really just has a premium vibe to it. I really like the interior design that Nissan is putting here in the Ariya. Now, all versions of the e-4ORCE come standard with their heads-up display, which typically you have to go for a higher trim to get that feature. It's amazing that Nissan makes it as standard. And then over here you can see on the dash you have a soft touch material where it's actual suede Alcantara with stitching here on this portion of the dash. As you can see, it's kind of beautifully carried over into the actual dash design. This area here is hard touch plastic, but that's okay. You'll never touch that. Love the way the vents look with that copper bronze accent with the wood. You can see these have haptic feedback for the climate control function here. It's come standard with dual zone climate control. And I have to say,
you can interrupt the voice prompt and give a command immediately by canceling voice recognition.
That's the Nissan helper person that literally every time you say the wake word of the brand, it will start asking you what you want. But I do like the haptic feedback for the system. You basically just have to touch it very lightly. You can feel it gives you a little vibration back into your finger, so you know that it has recognized the response you want to give it. Which is nice. The Platinum grade also includes a power tilt and telescoping wheel. You can see it offers a good amount of adjustability. There's no paddles on the wheel. If you want to access regen braking, it's right here. E-step is what it's called. You either can turn it on or off. There's only one level of regen, but you can also put it into a B mode here for the transmission. This controls the 1-speed reduction gear transmission. You can see as I put it in reverse, you have a full 360 camera included on this trim with a top-down view. It has moving object detection, which means it has rear cross-traffic braking and whatnot. The graphics also looks good. It has trajectory and whatnot. The horn sounds good. It doesn't sound puny like on some other EVs that I've tested. And then you can see over here, this console, as you can see on all but the base trims of the Ariya and front drive, actually has a power move feature. So they call it a power movable center console, which again is a really great feature to help you get comfortable. I really like how Nissan gives you that kind of customized adjustability. No other vehicle in the segment gives you a power function. The Ioniq 5 allows you to slide it in forward and back manually, but you can see when I slide it back, you can see there's a little bit of storage here for a smartphone. You also have two USB charging ports here, an actual power outlet. This right here is actually where you can plug your cord in, a cord here, then you can wrap the cord around this. So I like how Nissan kind of gives you that level of organization, which is nice. And then there's also a power console box here. So you can see there's a big open area here. If I push this button right here, push and hold it, you can see I can actually stop how far I want it to come out, or I can have it come out entirely. I can also close this up. This is not the wireless charging pad, but you can see very nice console storage area where this is lined in felt. It also feels really nice and sturdy. And again, you can kind of close it and open it in different levels. So you have to kind of keep pushing and holding this, and it gives you haptic feedback as well to open and close that. There's also some really nice elements here like Andon ambient lighting. You can see it right there just above the speaker grill. It's also down here. And then there's Kamiki trim accents here, where you really saw it in the front grille, and you can also see it kind of in the details of the speaker. Speaking of which, my Tester also has a Bose premium sound system, which sounds pretty good. It's on par with some of the upgraded systems you find in the competition for this vehicle. And then you can see you've got cup holders here with a nice sturdy console lid. We have that more of that wood trim. You have a nice padded center console area here. If I open this up, you can see there's my wireless phone charging pad. And then there's no actual connections for USB here. It's all down here. Like I said, it's all hidden underneath there, but this has a nice padded area. The seats, these are the zero gravity NASA seats with the memory foam. And I love the way these seats look. They're really comfortable as well. I was driving this vehicle for the last couple of hours. I could just sit here on a long road trip all day long. It has a ton of space, a lot of comfort. The heated and cooled seat also works well, which, by the way, the one thing I don't like about this system, which this, as you can see, works really nicely. It's very quick and snappy and responsive. Go to the home screen there. This is the way it looks like in the home screen. You have embedded GPS as well, which Nissan system isn't anything too special. But what I don't like is to access the heated seat, I have to go into the screen here. So you can see there's the heated steering wheel, and then there's the heated seat. It has an interesting function where there's an auto function, but there's also an on function, and there's your cooled seat function, and then there's an off function. When I had it in the auto function, it wasn't turning on the heated seat enough for me, so I had to actually turn the heated seat on manually. You can see there's 3 different levels. I would have preferred Nissan to give me like a hard button somewhere down here, but again, they're probably trying to kind of clean up the infotainment system area, which is why it's in the screen. But other than that little gripe, it is a really intuitive system that's easy to use. This screen over here is also slightly customizable. If I push this button here, I can change the meter view, where it'll actually will give me a 2 twin dial display. You can also change what you want in the center here. You can put your music information, GPS, driver assist information, which we'll show you guys. We'll talk about the Pro Pilot Assist 2.0 later during the driving scene. But overall, in terms of comfort here, you have a ton of space. You have a glove box here. Unlike something like the GTR-Inspired, which is damped and lined with felt, it's a decent size. And then above me here, you have ambient or LED map lighting, and you can see this big panoramic glass roof, which also opens. So if you're looking for an EV that has an opening glass roof, you can find that here in the Ariya. And you also have a power closing sunshade, so you don't have to deal with the sun beating down on you if you guys don't like that. But overall, the interior definitely feels roomy, has some great tech in it. It has some great comfort features in it, and I think Nissan really did a great job with giving people in this segment something that they want, which is definitely the interior space. And also, I forgot to mention, you have a digital camera rear mirror here, which gives you a really great view out of the back. Although if you don't want to use it, you can see the view out of the back right there is also very acceptable. Looking at the back seat of the Nissan Ariya, you can see this is also an area where Nissan really wanted to give consumers the space they needed to carry their larger friends or family. You can see the door panels have soft touch materials with more of that wood and the actual suede Alcantara. And the rear seat offers a pretty generous amount of space along with a flat floor, because remember, this is built off of a dedicated EV architecture. And you have around 37 inches of legroom back here. The seats themselves, they also obviously fold down to give you a full flat load floor. However, they don't have they do have a slight recline function, which again is going to add to that level of quality or comfort. And then you also have the premium Napa leather on the rear as well. Now, getting back here, you can see once I shut the door, it is a really nice place to spend time. Flat floor, somebody who's 5'7", you can see there's a good amount of foot space and legroom space as well. This figure back here is among the highest in the segment. I also love how the suede, I didn't notice this, it actually carries over on the B pillar into the rear, where it's kind of a nice design elements. You can see there's the Kamiki design elements here in the interior with the pattern in the actual speaker grills. There's no and-on lighting back here, the ambient lighting. But you can see here, you do have rear seat air vents, you have USB charge ports, you have heated rear seats, which I mentioned are standard even on the base version of the Ariya all-wheel drive. You can see really interesting, almost denim texture material on the back of the seat, or the seat backs here. You can see there's 2 storage cubbies. You have an armrest here that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. And then, as you can see here, the headroom space for somebody my height, 5'7", it's okay, but if you're over 6 feet, you might be getting a little bit closer to the roof of the vehicle. There are some LED map lighting back here, and then really, as you can see, this panoramic glass roof does eat into the headroom space. But overall, the rear seat is among the best in the segment. It's certainly very comfortable, and it has a lot of features. And I think for those of you who need to put actual adults back here, you'll find a lot to like about the Ariya's interior. So here we are back in usually sunny California, but as you can see, the rain is definitely not making for great filming weather. Technically, it's good weather to test out the Ariya's new e-4ORCE all-wheel drive system. Remember, this is Nissan's first ever electric all-wheel drive system. So let's go ahead and see what we can get 0 to 60. We are starting this drive off at 80% charge right here. Nissan says 4.8 seconds, but brake torque it. It's in sport, which is going to give us the most power. Despite having all this extra power, Nissan still tuned it to be much more linear in the feel. And it definitely shows. This is not going to kind of jar you around. Even when I put my foot hard to the floor very quickly, it ramps up the power in a very just nice manner. It's not going to be, you know, jerking your head around. And we just got 5.38 seconds now. Now that is definitely more uphill. That was about a 2% gradient uphill. So we'll see if I can find a flatter road and see what I can get when it's a more flat surface. But Nissan basically says 4.8 seconds. Now, we are, again, doing this test at 80% charge. I had around a 98% charge when I first started the drive. Unfortunately, it was pouring rain when I left the hotel this morning to come out to this area here where we're heading out to the Sonoma Raceway. And so I had to basically drive so I could find, so it wasn't so rainy out here. But what I am noticing with the all-wheel drive system is just smooth performance. There is no wheel slippage, even though the roads are horrendously wet. Right now, the rain has calmed down to not really a drizzle, but it's a light rain. But the roads are still wet, but with the way the all-wheel drive system works, it just has a nice smooth feel. There's no instances where it's going to make you feel nervous or anything like that. You do get the extra power, which is nice, because if you guys remember my review on the front-wheel drive Ariya, it was a little bit sluggish for my taste. I got 7.1 seconds 0 to 60 in that model, so I think this car could probably get closer to the 5-second range with better conditions and maybe with a full charge. But there's not really any launch control. I brake torqued it earlier, but you didn't really have to. But what I noticed, like, foot goes down hard and it feels quick. It feels like it has, you know, 450, almost 450 pound-feet of torque. And Nissan also says that for this model here in the sport mode, it's now creating a generated fake sound to kind of add to the whole visceral experience. You guys can hear it in the background. It is definitely spaceshipy. I like the sound, actually. It's artificial, obviously, but if you want to turn it off, you basically have to get out of the sport drive mode. It's turned on automatically in the sport drive mode, which is not nice, or it isn't great if you guys want to kind of customize it and allow you to do the sport mode without the sound. But when you put it in this mode, it still actually feels almost the same in terms of quickness. I might have to test out a 0 to 60 with it in standard mode, but it feels fast. This is the kind of performance that premium EV buyers are demanding. And I think Nissan, again, did it right by basically almost doubling the power. And we have doubled the torque, 442 pound-feet. We have 151 more horsepower over the base version. But keep in mind, if you guys go for the Ariya e-4ORCE with the smaller battery pack, I'm driving the Platinum Plus. Anytime you see a plus on the trim name for these vehicles, that means you have the bigger battery pack. It drops the horsepower to 335. But what I like about the Ariya is just the comfort factor. The seats they're zero gravity inspired NASA seats. You have heated and cooled seats, which is nice. These are also premium Napa leather seats, so this is actual real leather, which definitely adds to that craftsmanship, that premium feel. Nissan said they wanted this interior to feel like a lounge, and on the highway when I was driving this vehicle, it has a comfortable ride quality. It's quiet in here, although it's lots of rain and wind noise right now because of the storm that we're dealing with right now. But overall, it has a premium vibe. It has that skateboard architecture where the battery pack is mounted low. You do notice this vehicle is definitely tuned more for comfort. When I start hustling it through some corners, the steering is electric. It doesn't really have much feedback from the front tires. And this vehicle is heavy. It weighs a smidge over 5,000 pounds. That is definitely a couple hundred pounds heavier than its competitors. And I'm like wondering why this vehicle has to be so heavy. Perhaps Nissan just kind of wanted to make this car feel a little bit more refined. It is more on the quieter end of the scale. And the interior materials are premium. I love the way the Ariya's interior looks and feels. I've got great visibility around the front, around the sides. The digital camera rearview mirror is also a very nice touch. And I also like how Nissan makes a lot of the purposeful tech that you're going to use on an everyday basis. That's what they call it, standard. For example, I've got a heated steering wheel, standard. I've got heated seats and heated rear seats, standard. I've got a heads-up display, even on the lower end trims included. And then the Pilot Assist, which now is in its second generation. This is the first Nissan to offer semi-autonomous hands-free driving on the highway, which we'll see if we can try to get it to work later on. I'm not really banking on it considering the weather conditions. And when we started out this drive, the vehicle was showing around 269 miles on a full charge. That was at 98% battery capacity. This vehicle is rated to get 267. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do a range test today. When I get one back home for a week to test for a full week, I'll see if I can do a range test then. Right now it's showing 194 miles at 78% state of charge. So the range is certainly obviously better than the Nissan Leaf, better than the Toyota BZ4X, the Subaru Solterra. And on paper, technically, it's about the same as the Hyundai Ioniq 5. The Mach-E has a little bit more range. The ID4 has a little bit less range as well. The most you can do is 304 miles on the Ariya. On the Venture Plus, the front drive version, that's going to get you the best range. But overall, as a daily driver, Nissan certainly nailed the commuter factor with its premium interior, comfortable ride, quiet cabin. In terms of power, I like the power that you get from this e-4ORCE model. It definitely has the pull and the torque that you expect, especially in this price range. And it kind of gets me excited. I hope Nissan does an even higher performance version, a Nismo, although the company is promising that they're going to be introducing around 19 new all-electric models by the year 2030. They want to basically make their sales about 40% EVs by the time we get to 2030. So the Ariya is kind of just the beginning. I mean, technically it started with the Leaf, but the Ariya is the next chapter. But it is the beginning of that next chapter in Nissan going completely all-electric.
Not available while Apple CarPlay is running. Go back. Please say or select a command.
Go away. All right, I found this straighter stretch of road that should be on level ground, so let's go ahead and see if we can get closer to the 4.8 seconds that Nissan is claiming with this vehicle. It's in sport mode, we'll brake torque it. Not really any launch control, but you just get, again, that smooth linear pull of acceleration. 5.3 seconds there, and that's with it more on level ground. So I'll have to wait until I can retest this vehicle when I get one back home. But overall, 5.3 is certainly fast. This is almost 2 seconds faster 0 to 60 versus what I got in the front-wheel drive model. And the performance is pretty much on par with something like the Mustang Mach-E. However, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is faster if you get the dual motor version. Same thing with like a Volvo XC40 Recharge. But this is quicker than the Toyota BZ4X, Subaru Solterra, and the Volkswagen ID4. So now that the rain has cleared up a lot, we can finally test out the Pro Pilot Assist 2.0. And Nissan made the system very simple. They also wanted the system to be very smooth. By smooth, they meant that they want the system to be smooth when you turn it on, or when you give control to the system, smooth when you want to take control back from the system, and then smooth when the system wants you to take over. So to turn it on, you basically just push this little button over here, which turns it on. I can also put it into the driver assist page or screen right here, and then I just hit set. Now when I hit set, it's just like cruise control, and it starts off, of course, in white, then it goes to green, and then now, as you can see, it's blue because the system has the road mapped up in its database. Nissan says they have over 201,000 miles of roads here in the US. And now the system is allowing me to be completely hands-free, which I have the cruise set to 75. It's maintaining the distance in front of me. I can also adjust that gap. And you can see the lane, it keeps you well centered in the lane. As long as my eyes are looking forward, the system will allow me to continue to drive hands off. And Nissan says that this system this is the first Nissan here in America to get their Pro Pilot Assist 2.0. And this vehicle also will be able to execute lane changes for you. Now there is a button here, it looks like, I'm not entirely sure what this button does. It looks like it's to pass a slow moving vehicle, but I'm not entirely sure what that does. But regardless, this vehicle here is moving a little bit on the slower end, but as we go around curves, I'm noticing that it keeps me really well planted in the lane. I'm really impressed at how well centered it keeps me in the lane. This is much better than what I've tried in Ford's Blue Cruise, and I love the fact that Nissan is offering something like this. Again, we're going over this gentle curve here, and I trust the system very well. It works very smoothly. It handles itself really nicely. But let's go ahead and try to take over here. So I'm going to execute a lane change here and just move my, or move the wheel. Again, it didn't fight me. Some systems will try to fight me and it went from green back to blue, will try to fight you when you're trying to take back control. The Nissan system doesn't do that. Now, when you do want to execute the lane change function in this vehicle, the system requires your hands to be on the wheel when it does it. So it's got capacitive touch. Wow, I can't pronounce that to save my life. And so as long as my hands are on the wheel and I signal left or right, it'll allow me to execute those lane changes. Now, there's obviously some traffic here, so I can't do that. But the car uses the cameras and radars and sensors and whatnot, so it's going to check for traffic when I do try to execute a lane change. But what I'm noticing here is it's kind of staying a little too far over to the right for my comfort level. I want it to move a little bit further, but again, it tries to keep me well centered in the lane. But I'm really impressed. This works extremely well. It's pretty much on par with GM Super Cruise. I mean, I need to retest this vehicle, the driver assistance tech, when I have it for a full week to see how it truly does. But out on the highway here, it's really quiet, it's really smooth. The ride quality is very comfortable as well, which is going to be great for those long distance road trips. But overall, if you guys are looking for something that has the semi-autonomous driver assistance tech, the Nissan system is definitely among the best in this segment. So let's go ahead and try to execute a lane change here. Find a little gap again. So there, I kind of inserted myself into like a really tight spot, but again, it didn't really fight me while I was doing that. So right now it's green, it's telling me it's offering steering assist, but my hands still have to be on the wheel again. So it's not gonna, whenever it deems it's proper to do so, it will switch back over to blue when the conditions are met. So right now it's just green. But overall, I'm very impressed. Nissan has done their homework here with their ProPilot Assist 2.0, and it definitely shows out in the real world. So although Nissan is a little late to the premium longer range electric SUV space with the Ariya, the company is promising some really great tech and an overall interesting vehicle if you guys are in the market for something like this. And after spending the day driving the Ariya e-4ORCE, the all-wheel drive version, in this rather crappy rainy conditions here in Northern California, I am pretty much impressed with the overall feel of this vehicle. It's very smooth. That's what Nissan tuned this platform to give you, is a linear feel in terms of acceleration. In terms of speed, I got 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds, which I think is fast enough. I'll be curious to see what I can get when I have this vehicle back home on my normal roads, if we can get that 4.8 second 0 to 60 time. In terms of comfort, that's where the Ariya really shines. It's got really comfortable seats, it's got a great ride quality, it's got a quiet interior, it's got confident, very stable handling. Not sporty. If you want sporty, you're certainly going to have to find that in something like the Kia EV6 or the Tesla Model Y. And in terms of the range, we'll have to retest this vehicle's actual range when we get one for a full week. As you can see on these shorter drives, it's a little bit harder to test out the range. The all-wheel drive version of this car, Nissan says, is going to be the much higher take rate. The company is expecting around 60 to 70% of Ariya customers to be buying the all-wheel drive version, which, as you guys know, if you went to your local Nissan dealer, this model here wasn't on sale at the same time as the front-wheel drive model. You could buy the front-wheel drive model as early as December of 2022. This model here should be heading to dealerships later this month. Nissan says that they are basically leaving the plants in Japan, heading over to dealerships within the next couple of weeks. So as you guys heard, this model here will not qualify for the federal tax credit because it is built in Japan. However, if you guys plan to lease the car, there is a leasing loophole which would allow you to qualify for that $7,500 federal tax credit as long as the leasing company passes along that savings to you in the monthly payment. Now, if you are interested in the Nissan Ariya, what's it going to cost you to buy the all-wheel drive version? Now, Nissan basically charges a premium of around $4,000 to go for the e-4ORCE model. So for the base front-wheel drive Ariya, those started around 43 grand. The all-wheel drive model is going to start at around $47,000, which is actually pretty reasonable. And Nissan actually throws in a lot of standard equipment in this vehicle, things like a heads-up display or a heated steering wheel, heated seats, heated rear seats. That is all included on this version, which a lot of manufacturers tend to make you buy the higher trim to get features like a heated steering wheel or heated rear seats. Now, this platinum grade version is the most expensive version of the Ariya. It basically includes things like premium Napa seats. You've got the Bose stereo system. Here, the 20-inch wheels, the two-tone black roof with the panoramic sunroof. This one model here with the upcharge for the paint and the destination comes into just over $62,000, $62,770 to be exact, which on paper, it doesn't help the Ariya because a lot of the competitors are less expensive and they also qualify for the federal tax credit. Tesla comes to mind, of course, with the Model Y, which the company has significantly reduced the price. Volkswagen's ID4 is also cheaper, but if you're comparing it to something like the Toyota BZ4X or the Subaru Solterra, or the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6. None of those models qualify for the tax credit, and the Nissan does have some really great features with the interior and the tech, and also very good performance. So keep that in mind when you're shopping this segment. The Ariya is late to the party, but I think Nissan has definitely brought something here that shows they have experience in the EV segment. But in the longer run, I'm hoping that Nissan will eventually adjust production of this vehicle so it will qualify for the federal tax credit, which will make it a lot more enticing for those of you looking in this segment. Well, with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2023 Nissan Ariya e-4ORCE with the all-wheel drive system. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.